My name is Bibek Adhikari. I am an English instructor. In today's class, we are going to solve the writing portion of Unit 3, that is, how to write a diary entry. So, let's begin. Let us now start by learning some of the diary entries. The diary entries are taken from the book called Diary of a Young Gaul by Anne Frank, quite a famous book. So, the Diary of a Young Gaul was written by Anne Frank, who died in Bergen-Belsen concentration camp during the World War II, right? So we are going to read some of her interesting diary entries. So let's start. I haven't had time to write until today. Harry and I know each other quite well now. His parents are in Belgium. He came to Holland alone and is living with his grandmother. He had a girlfriend called Fanny, but now that he's met me, he's not interested in her anymore. I know her too. She's very sweet and very boring. Page number 9. We all share our meals now, and after 3 days we began to feel like one big family. The Van Dans told us a lot of news. People think we are escaping to Switzerland, although one woman says that an army lorry took us away in the middle of the night, and another family say that they saw all 4 of us riding on our bikes early one morning. Page number 22. So these are the interesting diary entries. Now let's go on reading some more diary entries, and we'll talk about what diary entries really are and how to write them. So let's read some more diary entries. And every night hundreds of planes fly over Holland and go to German towns where the earth is plowed up by their bums. And every hour, hundreds and thousands of people are killed in Russia and Africa. No one is able to keep out of it. The whole globe is waging war, and although it is going better for the Allies, the end is not yet in sight. And as for us, we are fortunate. Yes, we are luckier than millions of people. It is quiet and safe here, and we are, so to speak, living on capital. We are even so selfish as to talk about after the war Brighton. Page number 64. Every time I write to you, something special has happened. Usually it's unpleasant, but this time it's wonderful. The news was broadcast that Italy is out of war. The British are now in Naples. The Germans are in North Italy. Page number 86. So these are some of the diary entries taken from the book called Diary of a Young Gaul by Anne Frank, quite a famous book written by a 13-year-old Jew who died in the concentration camp shortly after publishing this book, right? So if you look at the, diary entries, you'll see many interesting things that she actually wrote about the war. The war created a deep and lasting impression upon her childless mind, but she was not that immature. She was mature enough to know what war could do, what destruction, what great devastations war could bring upon the Nazis, upon the Jews, right? So every time she wrote this diary, something unpleasant happened. There was war. So in a way, she wrote about everything. She was bold enough to write about everything. She wrote about her romantic little affair with Peter Van Daan. She wrote about, the problemsome families and the neighbors. The Van Daans were not so great with their family. And she also wrote about the war, the destruction, the war, started by Hitler. So all in all, it's a wonderful book about the war, written by a Gaul's perspective, a child's perspective, in fact. So you should read it. But now in this class, we are going to learn about how to write a diary entry. So let's begin. So the topic that we are going to study is called How to Write a Diary Entry. Let us now learn about the way in which we can learn to write a diary entry. First of all, let us start by asking the question, what exactly is a diary? So what's a diary? Let us now start by asking this question, what is a diary? A diary is a private place where you can keep your thoughts, feelings, and opinions on everything from work to school to everything in between, right? So it's a private place. So it is indeed a private place where you can keep your thoughts, feelings, and opinions on everything. So note the word everything. You can actually write about anything from something to anything to nothing. So you can write about everything, right? So it is that place where you can write about school, write about home, write about everything in between. There are all different type of diaries, like food diaries, health diaries, academic diaries, literary diaries, so many diaries. But your diary doesn't have to be specific if you want it to be. It can also be a place where you can write about whatever you want, you see. If you're just getting started, maybe you haven't decided what you want to write about, and that's fine. That's why this class is here, to help you with, understand all these moments of writer's block you may be having. So I'm going to give you some tips on how to write an effective diary entry. Okay, let us first start by learning how to start a diary. To start a diary, all you need is something. You need willingness. You need willingness. After that, willingness to write. As a matter of fact, you need willingness to write. You need to figure out what you want to write. So just figure out what you want to write. It's vital for the writing process. If you aren't sure what you want to write, you can simply start writing and see where it leads. So simply start writing. Write all the gibberish that you know. Correct? It can also be useful to set a time limit in your early writing session. Set a clock for 10 to 20 minutes and start writing. So timed writing is another idea. First of all, there should be some willingness to write. You should know, you deep down there, and there has to be some passion that you are going to write. And you should figure out what you want to write. If you don't know what you want to write, it's like, walking in darkness and trying to find the light. Even walking in darkness is sometimes fun, That's why you can simply start writing. Think about a topic. You don't even need to think about a topic. Just take out a blank page and start writing. Timed writing, you can give a brief 10 to 20 minutes, timed sessions, and you can write. Keeping a diary is a great way to record your growth and personal development. So more entries will allow you to look back and see what had changed over time. So the earlier you start, the more grateful you'll be later on. That's why you should always know how to write a diary. In fact, you should write the diary, This is very vital. Writing a diary is quite vital. So let's start by introducing some of the tips. First of all, decide what to write. Writing can be hard and it can be boring. If you feel like you don't know how to write a diary entry, you don't need to stress over it. You can start by writing anything. Before that, you need to decide that you want to start a diary. So there has to be that willingness. Once you have decided you want to dedicate time to creating a diary, starting is easy. The first step is to decide that you want to write. First, you need to decide that you are going to write. You're going to actually dedicate some time. So decide on that. Now, deciding what to write is the hardest part of writing, but it is probably the most significant part, because if you want to write a diary that is going to be entirely specific, you should decide what topic you would like to discuss during your entries. You can create multiple diaries for different topics, or just have one diary that has everything. Generally, diaries are private, they're personal thoughts, but they can also be a great way of keeping track of personal musings on anything you would like. So you can write about personal musings, correct? You can think about different kind of personal musings. It could be food. You can write a diary about food. Why not? You can write a diary about fashion. You can write a diary about travel. You can write a diary about sports. Sports is quite wonderful. You can write a diary about work. Maybe you don't like your work. Maybe you don't like your boss. Write a diary about it. You can write a diary about school. School is getting boring day by day. So as a matter of fact, why not write about that boring experience and make it fun? Because writing about a boring thing and converting it into fun is itself fun, right? You can write about your dreams. What do you want to be when you grow up? And that's kind of crappy question if you ask me, but you can write about it. Why can't you write about your friends? Write about your friends. You can write about your family. People do not like their friends and families. So write about them. Let's say you don't like your family. Let's say you love your family. Write about it. So it's a big idea in here. You can write about all the personal musings, right? You can write about anything under the sun. So it's pretty much like that. You can write anything under the sun. Anything under the sun. So any topic is a good topic if you decide to write it. There's no topic like bad topic, and there's no topic like, sad topic. You can write about anything. You get from food to family. There's no limitation. No one is going to limit you. No one is going to tell you that this is a bad topic or something like that. You've got to believe in yourself, and you've got to write down all your personal musings. You can make a separate diary entries and write multiple diaries about these different topics, or you can simply write everything in a single diary. Now that you have decided what you want to write, the second step is creating a routine. Create a schedule. Now, you know what to write, right? So starting a diary requires that you write in it frequently. You've got to write frequently. Frequently you need to write. But it's up to you to decide how frequently you want to write it. Whether it can be, let's say, once a day, or sometimes it can be once a week. So it can range from once a day to once a week. Decide on that. There's no need to rush, by the way. You can either write once a day or you can write once a week. Create a schedule that you can adhere to. The most you can make writing in your diary a part of your routine, the more comprehensive and helpful practice it will become. Let's say you have decided what you want to write, correct? Now decide on a writing schedule. You need to make something called writing schedule. So something called writing schedule, and you need to make it. For example, if you want to write your diary to be general, maybe you want to decide to write in it at a certain time every day. So certain time every day. So you need to decide on that. Like right before you go to bed. One example is writing right before you go to bed. Right before you go to bed. Or if you want your writings to be more, specific, like about food, maybe you'll write it every time you cook or find a new recipe, right? Or maybe you can write your diary right before you wake up in the morning. It's a nice morning. You go to the kitchen, brew yourself a cup of strong, bitter coffee, sip the coffee and sit down on your writing table and just write. That is one way. Another way is you stay up late till night. Maybe you stay up to midnight and just type. So whatever that suits you, depending upon whether you are a morning bird or an owl. So make a schedule. Right before you go to bed, let's say from 10:30 to 11:30. For 1 hour, you're going to write a diary. For example, this is only an example. You can write from, let's say you wake up at 6:30. You can write a diary from 6:30 to 7:30 in the morning. Or you can write a diary during your lunch break. Let's say your lunch break starts at 12:30 and ends at 1:15, for example. You can write a diary in your lunch break. You can have your lunch, go back to your class and write a diary. So create a routine or a schedule. That's very significant. Now that you have created a routine, your another task is to set a time limit. Obviously, you're not going to write the diary all day long, are you? So that is why I set a time limit. The time limit has to be practical, and it's very easy to get carried away and write too much when you're writing a diary, because diary is all about crude, raw feelings. And when feelings bubble up inside your heart, they get out, in an overflowing way, and you will never know how the time passed. A way to stay concise and to keep everything on track is to set a time limit for your writing. Right? Depending on how much you want to write, set a time limit that reflects that. It could be something like 30 minutes to an hour. So this is the most, ideal time for writers. They generally keep journals and write from 30 minutes to an hour, which is good, by the way. So if you feel like you want to spend more time, feel free to do that. There's no hard and fast rule. Okay, another tip on writing diary is date your entries. A diary is never going to be a diary unless you write the dates. So you need to write the dates. The great thing about diary is that you are able to look, back through it and see how you have progressed over the time. That's why you need to write the full date. You can also include time if you want to. Correct? Like, for example, could be something like 27th September 2017, time 8:30 in the morning. So like this, you need to include some dates. Set a time limit and date your entries. Another tip is you need to create an introductory entry. Now you need to create something called an introductory entry. For that, first This is all about your first diary entry. Try to write an introduction to what your diary will be about. Introduce yourself. This is something about first diary entry. And in that, you need to write about an introduction. Like, what is this diary all about? You need to include that. So write an introduction. Write what your diary is all about. So introduce yourself. Introduce yourself. Define who you are, your profile, what things interest you, what you think is important, and what you want this diary to be about. Open up and be yourself. So another tip that I have got is open up and be yourself. Don't be anyone else, because everyone else is already taken. All you've got is you. So be yourself. Open up. Write about Chowmin if you do not like Chowmin. Write about your favorite football star if you like about your favorite football star. So open up and be yourself, because everyone else is already taken. Another tip that I have got is something like act like you are writing to a trusted friend. To a trusted friend. Now you act like you're writing to a trusted friend. Diary is a trusted friend. Anne Frank called her diary Dear Kitty. Dear what? Dear Kitty. So Anne Frank called her diary Dear Kitty. You can call your diary Dear anything. So write as if you're writing to a friend, right? Diary is your most trusted friend. Anne Frank once said, paper has more patience than people. Okay, let's start from there. Anne Frank said something, paper has more patience than people. That's why make your diary a loyal friend. The best way to write is as if you're talking to your best friend. Write as if you're talking to your best friend. This is your personal diary, for your eyes only. So you should be able to feel comfortable writing as if you're talking to a, trusted companion. As the cliches goes, you can begin your diary by saying, Dear diary, I feel like writing to you. Something like this. This is a cliche. You know what a cliche is? This is a cliche. Although it is a cliche, it is quite, it is used. It can really lead you in the right directions in terms of the tone you should be writing in. Correct? So it's a cliche. Dear diary, dear friend, dear Paul, my best friend, my kitty. All these terms. They're overused. But sometimes even cliches are good enough. So try to write as if you're writing to your friend. Another thing is you need to be honest. And this is probably the most important idea. You need to be honest and you need to be candid. That means you need to be very friendly and you need to be honest. No need to, be shy, and no need to reserve your ideas. You can talk, you can say anything to your diary. You can talk about all the negative things. You can talk about all the positive things. There's no restriction, by the way. You can write about anything. Okay, lastly, I've got a last tip. And that tip is tip number 8, which is simply have fun. Fun is vital. If there's no fun in writing, why should we even write? So there should be some fun in writing. Writing is hard and boring, but we need to make it easier and fun. Correct? Writing in your diary should never be a task or a burden. So remember to have fun with it. It can be a place of peace, a place of creativity, a place of reflection, a place where your thoughts can roam free. So when starting a diary, make sure you're writing about things you care about and are passionate about, because as long as you enjoy what you are writing and the process of it, you'll never miss an entry. So you should enjoy the process, correct? You've got to enjoy the process. You should be passionate about it. Passionate about writing. Hey, you may be writing something, maybe writing a poem to impress your girlfriend or your boyfriend, but that never lasts. Writing is all about passion. It is, if you want to be a writer or something in your future, you've got to give time to writing. You've got to be able to face the circumstances for the next 15 or 20 years. You've got to stay hungry and stay foolish, like Steve Jobs said, right? Yeah. And all in all, you've got to have some fun. It's not that creative writing, it's not that serious stuff. It's not that boring, economics or physics lesson that you have to sit through. So it's much fun. And briefly, let me talk about something called length of the diaries. Now, diary entries can be long and they can be short. If you have read the book called Diary of a Young Girl, you will find very long entries, and in some other pages you will find short entries, maybe paragraphs. Correct? So don't worry much about the length of the diary, you just write. So length, word counts, formats, these are all secondary ideas. Whenever we are writing, we never care about the word counts. We never care about the length. We never care about, the individual size of the paragraphs. What we should care about is whether we are having fun or not. If you're having a lot of fun in it, if you're enjoying the process, it's no way that we are not going to write something that is not readable. Finally, I've got something about the writing process. Finally, the dreaded writing process. First, it's pretty easy if you ask me. First is brainstorm on a topic. Choose a topic and brainstorm. Second is ask yourself questions. Now ask yourself different kind of questions. Like, what did you learn today? What do you want to accomplish after writing the diary? What do you want to fix? How are you feeling right now? Write your answers. Write your answers. After that, pick a format. Correct? Just pick a format. After that, make them different. Make the diary entries different. Don't just write same thing all over again. Make them different. Spice things up. Don't be hard on yourself while you're writing. Be soft while you're writing. Don't be too judgmental. Don't be too over sentimental. Thoughts in order. Thoughts in order. The thoughts have to be logical and they should be ordered. And finally, get your creative juices flowing. Right? Get the creative juice flowing. Finally, the homework. The homework is pretty easy. All you need to do is reread the diary entry given in the book, your textbook I mean, and draft a similar diary entry about your normal school day. Pretty easy, right? It's not that hard. All you need to do is you need to reread the diary entry given in the book and draft a similar diary entry about your normal school day. So that's a diary entry. It's called Sunday, 14 June 1942, written by the 13-year-old Jewish girl, bright Jewish girl by the way, Anne Frank. Correct? You need to reread that diary entry and draft a similar diary entry about your normal school day. The purpose of giving you this homework is you only learn writing by imitation. You imitate, you copy others and you learn. You copy 100 writers and you become yourself a brand new writer. So imitation is significant in writing. But that does not mean you're going to do something called plagiarism. Copy and pasting is not okay. Plagiarism is unacceptable, correct? But imitation is good. Keep that in mind. With this, we have come to end of today's class. If you have any questions or suggestions regarding this video series, feel free to write us at learning@deerwalk.edu.np. Thank you.